Welcome back to Theology BookMAS Day 11, and guys, I have something to confess before we get into today's book. I cannot stop changing this layout. I don't know how people who post videos on YouTube do it, how they can show that restraint. Because I'm always just like, well, what if I move the desk over to this side of the room? And I have to be really careful because I can't take up that much room in this room because you can't see it. But this is also the baby's nursery, although he isn't sleeping here yet, but he will. And so I gotta be like, a little conservative with how much space I take in this room. And like, yes, it's my office, but it's also the place where Charlie's gonna sleep. And it's just like, how can I make this more efficient? How can I make it look better? And so trying something new out might move in this direction. I don't know. Anyways, you're not here for that. You know what you're here for? You are here for this book. All right, just in case you're thinking, you're like, Dean, did you just pick up a random book off of your bookshelf? No. This is a really recent one, but it's been so impactful. This is The Gospel-Driven Church by Jared C. Wilson. Maybe my favorite book that's been written in the last couple years. I love this book. It's been so helpful. The reason why is because so much of our culture in Christianity is focused on numbers, and we take like these business terms and we apply it to the church, and we say we got to use all these different distinctions and qualifications from the business world and definitions, and we use it in the church. And then, like pastors who are trying to be faithful and, their church isn't exploding, are going like, what's wrong with me? Or on the other hand, you have churches that are maybe exploding in numbers, but there's just like no depth. And you're wondering, like, am I doing it wrong? And the answer to both those questions could be yes. Could be, yeah, you're doing something wrong. Because what Jared C. Wilson does in this book is he shows, everyone talks about being gospel-centered. That's like a really big Christian cliche right now. We want to be gospel-centered. Every church that you look at in some way is trying to be gospel-centered, or if you say gospel-centered, they're like, oh yeah, us too. We're all about that. But what Jared C. Wilson does is showing that the gospel should be the main driving factor within the local church. Everything we do should be focused on the gospel. So whether it is evangelism of getting the gospel out there to people outside the church, or when it comes to discipleship methods within the church, it should have the gospel right at the forefront. And if not, and that's the thing that Jared C. Wilson is able to just really drive home very well, is to just be like, get rid of it. It's not worth it. All these things that we try to do as a church, and really we're creating a lot of busy work most times. I'm not saying like programs should all go out the window, but if it's not moving the gospel forward within the church and, toward outsiders, toward insiders within the church, then what's the point? And so if you're wondering how to do gospel-centered ministry, this is the book to get. Now, I love it because it's not just theological. It is. It's pretty entry-level kind of theology. He writes for pretty much anyone can pick up this book, even if you're not a pastor, and read it and be like, whoa, is my church doing this? And pastors especially should ask that question, is my church doing this? But he writes it in a way that's kind of like a parable. Like he gives this illustration of this church, and I'm sure some people probably reading this is like, is he talking about me? How do you know this stuff? We had a closed door meeting, things like that. But I really found it to be just alluring. Like, it just kind of trapped me in the story. And like, I remember even there's this one part of like a lady who's in charge of child ministry, and like her pastor was really beginning to transition to this more gospel-centered approach. And like there was some pushback on it, and like kind of like the idea, well, they're just kids, just entertain them. And then she said, like they won't always be kids. And I remember like writing in the book, I forget where it's at in here, but just like writing in that, like, you go girl. Like I was so into it. So it's a story, but it's also theology and practical church ecclesiology. And if you're wondering, like I said, how to do gospel-centered ministry, start here. I'm really excited because I think in 2021, if we ever make it there, that Jared Wilson's going to be dropping another book, kind of in the same vein, even more, like this is like philosophy, and now he's going to get into the more practical side, and I'm really excited about that. But this book, it just kind of said things that I've been saying for a couple years and struggling with, and you know, just like wrestling through how to do this and how to even describe it. And so I really appreciated this book because it was, I couldn't have written this book. I'm not that talented, but when I was reading it, I was like, this is what I've been thinking. And so if you have been thinking similarly of how to do gospel-centered ministry, pick it up. It's real good. Tomorrow I'll be back with another book and maybe a different layout. We'll see. See you then.